What's up, y'all? Welcome back to After the Snap. It's me, Tasha, and today we need to talk about Good Times. We need to talk about Good Times. It is described as an edgy, irreverent reimagining of the TV classic. A new generation of the Evans family keeps their head above water in a Chicago housing project. If you want to know how I feel about this irreverent, edgy reimagining, let's just go. Let's go. Now, before we get into the details of the show, we've got some people that we need to thank for this edgy, irreverent reimagining of Good Times. And by the way, when you watch it on Netflix, they snuck in a second subtitle to Good Times, this animated series. It's Good Times, Black Again, because they stopped being black. I don't know if they stopped being black, but they're black again. Good news, everybody. Very good news. All right, first little team that we need to say thank you to is Renata Shepard and Carl Jones. They are the creators of this series. Now, Renata Shepard, we might know from Born Again Virgin. Carl Jones gave us the animated spinoff of Black Dynamite. Yes, so we got some black people. We got some black people, and that's always good. When you're making a show about black people, you want it to be an informed show. So who better to write this show and create this show about black people than some black people? Now, we got some other black people, or at least another black person to say thank you to. And that is none other than Golden State's Warriors GOAT, the greatest of all time to put on that uniform, Steph Curry. I don't know what the hell Steph Curry was doing, or why he just needed something to throw his money at, but Steph Curry is also somebody that we need to say thank you. And then we got two white guys. Seth MacFarlane, who you might know from American Dad, Family Guy, The Orville, because, I do the whole Star Trek thing and sci-fi thing. So the Orville, I love the Orville. Seth MacFarlane is attached to this. And last but not least, Norman Lear. Now, when this show was being conceived, Norman Lear was probably damn near 100 years old. I mean, it wasn't no probably to it. He was damn near 100 years old. So I'm going to give him a little grace, even though, he has gone on to produce beautiful movies in heaven, I suppose it. Norman Lear, who was the original developer of this series, he didn't create the original Good Times, but he developed and produced the original Good Times. So heavy hitters behind this irreverent reimagining. They also got some pretty decent voice actors for Good Times Black Again. We saw Yvette Nicole Brown, J.B. Smoove, Jay Farrow, among others. There's a long list, a litany of black people who lent their voices to this new animated series, and they do a fine job voicing their characters. Now, if you haven't been around as long as I have, let me tell you a little bit about the original Good Times series. The original Good Times series ran from 1974 to 1979, featured the Evans family, a complete nuclear family of a mother, a father, and their children. And they're black, which crazy. This was like the first time on network television that we saw a nuclear black family fully intact, interacting with each other on a regular basis. The problem with this family is that they found themselves in the ghetto, the Cabrini Green housing projects of Chicago. And that was kind of a rough area to grow up in. And the show really depicts how you can be in the ghetto, but you don't have to be of the ghetto, if you understand what I'm saying. This was a family who was trying their best to raise upstanding human beings, to turn them out into society as successful adults, and a family struggle shortly after the civil rights era, a family struggle to keep their head above water. James was often seen going from job to job. He was struggling to find a career path, and he continued that struggle until his death in the series that was spurned by John Amos, who portrayed James Evans. He had a desire to keep this series above the buffoonery that you would see in other series like this. So he wanted it to be not necessarily a serious look, but a respectable look into how a black family in this given situation would behave. Later on in the years, you saw the focus be turning to J.J. Evans, who was played by Jimmy Walker. Jimmy Walker is through no fault of his own. He was only a stand-up comic, and he started getting a lot of attention for the little catchphrase, "Dynamite," and he was doing things, acting over the top.
Hello. Aren't you glad you let your fingers do the walking? Because you got kids at dynamite doing the talking.
He was acting over the top black, and that did not sit well with Esther Roll, who played Florida Evans, the wife of James Evans, and of course John Amos. John Amos ended up leaving the show. In fact, he got fired, but he left the show for that reason. Esther Roll, very shortly after John Amos left, she left as well because she was like, I just can't, this is not what I signed up for. These were people who made these types of sacrifices to protect the integrity of the storytelling. And the series went on to have still like another, I think, 2 seasons after both of them left that ended up being well received. But we did start to see a focus on JJ and his cartoonish acts. As heartbreaking as it was that the John Amos, James Evans character got written off in an off-screen death on Good Time, the family still made it out of the ghetto. The Florida Evans character married a man. I think he might have even passed away. I think she might have been like a black widow or some shit. Black widow. She was a black widow, but was she a black widow? Now see, that get you thinking. That would have been a good series. But anywho, everybody got out the ghetto because Thelma had married a guy named Keith. And Keith was a professional football player, but he had gotten injured. So he was playing for the Chicago Bears. He had gotten injured. So as he was recovering from his injury, somehow he ends up living in the projects with all of them. But good news, he rehabilitated his injury. His wife, Thelma, got pregnant. He went on to have a career with the Chicago Bears. They took Florida with them. JJ became a world-renowned artist because it was a focus on his talent, which was art in the series. The younger brother, Michael, was going to school to be an attorney. Everything worked out. Walona and her daughter, Penny, who was played by the young Janet Jackson back then, they get out the projects. Everybody gets out the projects. Yay, we are so excited. So how, pray tell, do the descendants of the Evans family wind up back in the projects, not only in the projects, back in Cabrini Green, not only in Cabrini Green, back in the exact same effing apartment that the original Evans family lived in. Tell me how that makes sense, y'all. Now, let me just add in here. I'm from the Chicago area, and I happen to know on really good authority that the Cabrini Green housing projects have been gone since the early aughts. Now, I'm not going to hold that against them too much because they never say the words Cabrini Green in either the original Good Times or Good Times Black Again. But we know that that's the projects that they were living in. So because they never mentioned the words Cabrini Green, I'm not going to hold that against them. But everything else, I'm going to take the gloves off for. So this is letting y'all know that I don't have warm and fuzzy feelings about this reimagining of Good Times. In fact, these are not good times. I don't feel lucky we have them. And I'm not going to be overly sensitive about parodying the Black experience. In fact, I've seen TV shows, animated series that have done a better job at being a parody of the Black experience, namely the Boondocks and the PJs. Those are 2 series that I'm like, they did well. Proud Family, they do well at parodying the Black experience, making it just a little over the top, but still having something to say. Now, to be fair, I could only stomach 1 episode of Good Times Black Again. So if you guys would like for me to do an episode by episode breakdown, I'll do it. Just let me know down in the comments. You're going to vote with your likes. If this video has a lot of likes and a lot of views and all of that, I will sacrifice by doing episode by episode breakdown of the Good Time series. I don't have any desire to run back to this series because it does what a lot of TV that is supposedly marketed towards Black people do, and that is it steals the heart and realism of our experience. Even in the ghetto, even in the projects, people still have hope. And it truly appears that this series is embracing the struggle and not the hope of rising above the struggle. You still have a family. The entire nuclear family is intact. So that's, I guess, a good thing. But you have a slovenly, sloppy father who was supposed to be the grandson of James Evans. So I don't know which one of the kids would have had him. It would have probably been Thelma, though, huh? The age kind of works out. that you skip a whole freaking generation and then you move your family back into the projects. That don't sound like an Evans problem. That sounds like a you problem. Everybody else got out of the projects. What would make you take your family back? Okay, and then you have the wife. She has the short blonde pixie cut. That's first and foremost. She's got very wide and exaggerated hips and booty. Anytime she's looking for her maybe 1 or 2 year old drug dealing son, you heard me. Anytime she's looking for her 1 or 2 year old drug dealing son, her titties start to leak. She starts to lactate. Milk everywhere. I'm not playing here. We know which direction to go by which breast starts lactating. You got the brother who is also, he's an artist because he draws the picture of Black Jesus. Yeah, we revisited Black Jesus, y'all. And then you have the daughter, and I don't remember nobody's names. I don't remember anybody's names, and I don't care enough to look them up. I'm sorry. But you have the daughter who is a social activist, but it's like she is just doing the most in her activism to the point where she's damn near killing herself. She's damn near dead inside because she's fighting what seems to be an uphill battle for one person to be fighting, and she's killing herself with her activism. So that's what we see in this series. This first episode truly relied on certain tropes and stereotypes of Black people, and it trivialized the experience of Black people in poverty-ridden society. Addiction, for example, addiction was addressed poorly in this. It's almost like they're trivializing the experience of people with addiction, what role poverty plays in developing addiction. It trivializes that for the shock value of cartoonish humor. And I found it insulting, extremely insulting. The emphasis on the objectification of Black female bodies, even in the first episode, you saw people walking down the street. You're not taking in the people themselves, you're taking in their body parts. So a person walking down the street and all you see is breasts and chains. A person walking down the street and all you see is a big old booty. Again, the lactating mama. They went there with one of the apartments being owned by a girl named Lisa, and she uses the freaking LED lights that the kids use to decorate their bedrooms. On the door, it says Lashes by Lisa. And you enter this apartment, and I know it's an apartment like this in every apartment complex, but they did shit over the top. The girl, Lashes by Lisa, she does lashes, she does nails, she does hair, she embalms bodies, she performs baptisms, all of this in her apartment in the projects. Look, haha, it could be funny, but when you start stacking one stereotype on the other, anytime you got a 1 year old selling drugs, there's a problem. It almost makes me think to myself, like, I know this is adult animation. Which one of Steph Curry's children is selling the drugs? Which one of Steph Curry's children is he going to allow to consume this garbage? It's supposed to be for adults, but you know sometimes kids get a hold to this ish. Who do you want to internalize the messages that are being pushed forth? Now, again, only saw the first episode, but who are we supposed to be making these messages for? Is it for the Black community? Is it for everybody else so they can point and laugh at the Black community? And no, I don't hate Steph Curry for producing or being an executive producer on this thing, but I'm like, we really need to watch what we get our names attached to. The fact that they called this show Good Times, the fact that they named these people the Evans, the fact that they continuously name drop the Evans throughout this entire first episode, the fact that they hum the theme song of the series as if that was a popular song on the radio, how would they in universe know that song? I mean, of course they could just simply be, we're going to break the fourth wall quite a bit, wink, wink, nod, nod. But really, it's just, we want you guys to think that this show is like Good Times when it is nothing like Good Times. They could have called this show anything but Good Times. It could have just been that. Bad times, not shit times. We suck times. They could have called it anything else, but they chose Good Times. One of the series that strive to show Black people in poverty situations in a positive light. We taken that from you. And it wasn't by somebody else. And like, these are not others that have taken it from us. It's us who's taken it from us. And for that, I got a problem. When we think about the shows and series that are the most talked about shows and series in, you know, the Black diaspora, we start to hear BMF Power, shows like that, Snowfall. And look, I'm not shitting on these shows. There's room for these shows, but then we also need to make room for more realistic, more grounded storytelling. This ain't it. Good Times Black again is not it. This ain't it. And if we keep throwing our views behind this type of content on TV, on social media, and everywhere, this is what they're gonna think we want. At some point, don't we want to be taken seriously? Because this ain't just us watching this. This is not just Black America. This is not just America. This is going everywhere. And some people who will have zero experience with a real Black person, especially a Black American person, that's why I don't sit around here and joke, hee, because I'm not a coon. Oh gosh, it feels so good to say that. I'm not a coon. But some people are very performative in their Blackness. Some people like this type of shit. If you like this, knock yourselves out, enjoy it. This is not for me. Knowing that throughout my entire life, Good Times was always there, with the exception of 1 year. I'm 1 year older than Good Times. By the time I was able to form a coherent thought, Good Times was on. Had always been a part of my childhood, and it was a show that my mother was not afraid to let me watch because it was wholesome. And when it attacked a subject like gangs or violence, it attacked it with the intent of showing a way to get over this without foolishness. We've already seen a freaking shootout between some babies in the first freaking episode of Good Times Black again. Okay, calm yourself, girl. Calm yourself. Look, if you like this content, please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Turn your notifications on. I do live streams about Star Trek, about X-Men, about stuff. I like for my live streams to evolve from just those things. And you guys will tell me what it is that you like. Tell me what you liked, what you didn't like about Good Times Black again. I am so here for hearing about it. I could have continued to talk about this ish forever, but I'm telling you, it is doing us no service. It's no service to ourselves by supporting fiction that depicts us in a poor light. It's not a good thing. It ain't a good look. So let me know what you think. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.